Hello everyone, and welcome back to part 2 of what should have been a one-part epoxy resin pour. As you can see, let's see if I can get this a little bit closer. What started out being filled to the top ended up nowhere near the top. I did not have the piece clamped down in the form, so it started to float. Epoxy was flowing underneath. I didn't seal the edges of the plywood, so I'm sure at least some of it soaked into the plywood. But what was the appropriate amount to fill that thing became not the appropriate amount. So I am now back here mixing another equal amount of epoxy to fill the rest of that in the way it should be. So give me a bit while I'm off camera mixing epoxy. All right, epoxy is put into the container, and there is the dye. And now to get my nice little paddle mixer and get this going. And let's see if I can get this turned around a little bit. As you can see, even just that much mixing has already started to incorporate all of that dye. Okay, now that that is mixed, let's get everything lined back up with what I'm actually putting that stuff in. And let's see how this works out. Now that seems to be filling much better and not running away from me. And just because I want to try something, this is an experimental piece after all, I want to pour just a little across the top and see how those blue epoxy filled Lichtenberg burns look when it's got just a little bit of green across the top. Yep, I'm gonna need a little bit more. I think even just a little bit more than that. Let's see if I can just... And the lighter was to supply heat to pop all of the bubbles that develop inside of the epoxy. And it helps things rise to the surface a bit, I've been told, which brings more bubbles to the surface and allows you to pop those as well later on. And since I have a little bit of epoxy left, I'm going to put it in my wonderful little fish mold and make some little crafting things. I did these little stars with some epoxy I had left over from a pour I did yesterday for a cutting board I'm making. I just put some mold release on the silicone mold so that these little fish will pop out quite nicely when things are dried. Let's move this over to here and adjust so that you can see a little better what I'm doing. Literally just filling up the fish mold. I'm doing every other one. Ooh, my arm's getting a little shaky. I'm doing every other one because the 4 that I left free so far have little divots in the bottom, or what form little divots when I pull these out. But since I still have some, I'll fill those ones too, or at least as many as I can with the epoxy I have. Yeah, we got a baby fish in there, but that's okay. If I can pull some of this guy over. Well, he's a baby fish, but I think I got enough in there to at least let him have a tail. And we'll see how this does. I kind of like the very thin translucent green across everything. And if I don't like it, I can always sand it off. And that is it for this week's video on how to fix your mistakes because you didn't do things correctly the first time. Let it be known, from this point on, I will be clamping and sealing all of my pieces so that this does not happen again. Have a great day.